מזמור לדוד, אדוני רואי לו ואכסר, בין יודשא ירביצני, על מי מנחת ינעלני, נפשי ישובב ימנחני, במגלה צדק למען שמו, גם כי הלך בגיא צל מוות, לא ירא, כי אתה עמדי, שבטך ומשענתך המה ינחמוני, תברוך לפני, תברוך לפני שולחן נגד צוררי, נגד צוררי, ישבת בשמן כבש ירבה. ובחסד ירדפוני כל ימי חיי, ושבתי בבית אדוני לאורך ימים. The Lord is my shepherd, I shall not want. He has me lie down in green pastures. He leads me beside the still waters. He guides me on paths of righteousness. He revives my soul for the sake of his glory. Though I walk in the valley of the shadow of death, I fear no harm, for you are with me. Your staff and your rod do comfort me. You set a table in the sight of my enemies. You anoint my head with oil. My cup overflows. Surely goodness and mercy shall follow me all the days of my life, and I shall abide in the house of the Lord forever. Amen.
We've gathered together this morning to pay final respects for Samuel Starr, Sam Starr, Shmuel ben Aaron, and I want to call upon Sam's son, Adam, to say words of eulogy.
Well, first, I'd like to thank everyone for being here today. I know it would have gratified him. No matter how clean I thought my shoes were when I got into my father's car, he'd always find dirt that I'd tracked into his floor mats. When I got out, he'd start vacuuming them and buffing my fingerprints off the windows. Years later, I got him back, though. He'd sit down in my car and find old sandwiches in Ziploc bags, gum wrappers, and stray papers. It always blew his mind that I could go 6 months without washing my car. Eventually, he stopped asking me if I rotated my tires. In 30 years of driving, I've done it only once. Fortunately for my dad, my brother Daniel wouldn't let him down here. Cars and driving were always a point of contention between us. He prided himself on few things more than his driving. I mean, what kind of person drives up a hilly back road off the Morgan Highway in the middle of the winter just to see how fast he can drive down in reverse? It took me years just to parallel park competently. He'd get so frustrated teaching me to drive that he pawned off the task to his friend Bill Walters. But my dad and I did have one memorable lesson. One day, a flock of pigeons settled in the road in my path. I slammed on the brakes, worried I'd run them over. "What the hell are you doing?" he said. "Keep going. They'll move out of the way. I've been trying to hit them for years." And they did. I still haven't hit one. In 1999, I was set to drive out to San Francisco for law school. I was looking forward to driving out with a friend. When he canceled on me at the last minute, my dad volunteered to join me. Believe it or not, I drove most of the way, and I was halfway decent by then. After what seemed like 100 miles straight of cornfields in Iowa, we stopped at a gas station convenience store. I went in to buy a Snapple, and my dad went to the back to use the payphone. And for those of you who were born after 2000, we actually used those before the days of cell phones. While I was paying at the register, the attendant and I could hear my dad on the payphone telling George Thomas that Iowa was like the movie Deliverance. And if you haven't seen the movie, trust me, that's not a compliment. I couldn't get out of the store fast enough. But then I had to wait for my dad, who'd struck up a conversation with the attendant. And God knows what they were talking about, whether it's the local police department or Burt Reynolds. But he'd made a friend. Later on the drive, we stopped at a tiny hamlet in Wyoming, where the only evidence of civilization was a diner that stood just back from the highway. I cringed when my dad asked the waitress what it was like to live in a town with less than 100 people and how busy the diner ever got. But my dad always knew people better than me. It was probably the only real conversation she'd had all day. When we finally arrived in San Francisco, my dad saw that my apartment was in the Tenderloin. And while the Tenderloin might be a nice cut of meat, this was not the choice part of the city in the late 1990s. I was unpacking my things when he picked up his pocket knife and rubber band full of cash and said he was going to go for a walk in the neighborhood. He came back about 40 minutes later telling me I had nothing to worry about. The street people were actually pretty nice. I'm not going to say my dad wasn't judgmental. God knows he judged me for my floor mats and for my first fiance. And he was actually right on the latter account. But he also saw things in people that others didn't. My dad used to send a guy to pick up my brother and me from New Jersey who may or may not have been indicted on RICO claims. This is a guy who would roll up to the house in a Sergio Tacchini sweatsuit with a toothpick hanging from his mouth. One time we stopped at a gas station. The guy pulled around the side of the building to make us think he ditched us. But he showed up on time and drove the speed limit. If my dad were here right now, he'd probably say, "Who cares if he embezzled money? He was a good driver." Which is more than he could say for me. But not too long ago, my sister Lindsay was on the phone with her mother at 11 o'clock at night, and Lisa was saying that she could see a guy in the driveway who was doing work on the basement. So Lindsay said, "Why in God's name is someone doing work on the house at 11 o'clock at night?" Well, apparently, the guy promised to finish the job that evening because he was going to jail the next day. This is the kind of deal only my dad would make. The average person's lifetime amounts to about 27,000 days. And the ones we remember years later are usually the best and the worst. The ones in the middle we often forget. I've thought from time to time about the best days I've lived, days that I'll always remember. Since Tuesday night, I've been thinking about what those days were for my father. I only have access to 47 of his 74 years, but I have a pretty good idea. They were the Sundays he spent taking Daniel, Lindsay, Lisa, and me on a drive to nowhere in particular. We might stop at an antique store, but we'd definitely stop for rice pudding or ice cream. We'd listen to the Beatles, Dylan, or some supposedly relaxing New Age music. That he'd suggest playing the quiet game whenever we started fighting was a given. And I'm a little disappointed that he never made good on all the prizes he promised to the winners of all those games before he passed away. I never realized until now that these were also among my best days. Like many of you, I wasn't ready to say goodbye to my father. I thought I'd have more time, but then there's really never enough time, is there? Life's about stacking those best days, even if we don't see them for what they are in the moment. Thank you again for being here.
Right.
Thank you, Adam. Call upon Sam's grandson, Charlie.
Okay, I'm Charlie, Mark and Lindsay's oldest son. That also makes me Sam's oldest grandson. The perk of being the oldest is that I got to name him. And so he was called Peepa by all the other grandkids. My brother Max and my cousins Will, Allie, and Enzo. There are 1.5 million things I could say about him, but I think I should just share a few stories about my time with him instead. When I was little, Peepa and I would lay in his bed and watch Happy Gilmore because it was the only movie somewhat suitable for kids that he also liked. And Grandma would bring us a midnight snack right when the movie was done. After that, we'd mess around with the laser projection on his alarm clock until he fell asleep. When I got a little older, he would take me in whatever brand new sports car he had, zooming down back roads, singing to something with an awful singing voice. And he often stopped at his favorite spots in Scranton or to say hi to a friend or his sister, my Aunt Susie. Peepa was always trying to give us new stuff, and he loved trying to give us his old stuff too. My dad and I had a similar sense of style to Peepa, so he would always send us boots, flannels, socks, and whatever else he could think of. The boxes once used for police supplies arrived with no note, just a random sweater or a pair of shoes rattling around inside. He was always lovingly concerned for all his grandkids, and he loved nothing more than spoiling us with stuff we loved but didn't need. I remember one time when I was in middle school, Grandma got me a pair of Air Jordans. For one reason or another, we went to the store to exchange them. And I was looking at these flashy shoes for a while, but ended up picking more subdued ones. Peepa asked me why I didn't pick the first ones, and I had told him it was because kids at my school were getting robbed for their shoes. This is true. I wasn't kidding. The horrified look on his face when I told him was hilarious, and he responded with his usual, "Holy God." After that, nearly every time he called me, pretty much up until I was graduating from high school, he would say, "So Charlie, tell me, are kids still stealing your shoes?" That question was later replaced by, "So Charlie, tell me, are there any pretty girls you've been talking to?" I wish I could remember more stories that were really funny or really interesting, but I can think of 1,000,000 things that represent how loving, caring, and incredible he was. None of those words can even scratch the surface of what Sam Starr meant to me, my brothers and cousins, and this family. For the rest of my life, I hope I can be even half of the man, grandfather, and friend that he was to me, so many others. We all love you so much, Peepa.
Charlie, that was beautiful. I call upon Sam's daughter, Lindsay.
There was no one like Sam. No one. He was truly exceptional in so many ways. Exceptionally generous, exceptionally loyal, and exceptionally full of shit. You probably all called him out on this at one time or another, and if you didn't say it to his face, I know you thought it. As I said, there's no one quite like him, and there are so many things that made him truly special. He had a technical ineptitude that was second to none. If you were to give a caveman or an early American settler or a visually impaired chimpanzee a run-of-the-mill microwave to operate, I have no doubt that all three would crush Sam. Until painfully recently, my mom had to actually help him change the TV channel. But his mastery of the art of bullshit allowed him to subliminally coerce those around him into doing these small tasks on his behalf, somehow letting them think it was their idea all along. So he skated by, knowing that everyone who knew him and loved him would help him live a full life without ever successfully using the internet. Sam loved his shtick, and he was exceptionally loyal to his longtime comedy routines. He attempted to entertain my kids with the exact same tongue twisters and played-out puns that he repeated endlessly to my brothers and me. He's probably asked many of you if you're able to say unique New York, 10 times fast. Just last week, he found great joy in making the same joke about my poor camp boyfriend from 1992, and he never got enough of the story where Adam, Dan, and I fought so intently over a jar of jelly purchased at a backroads country store that my mom had to throw the jelly out the window, leaving us all in tears. If he knew the story or joke made someone smile or even squirm, he committed to it for a lifetime. Sam played the part of an exceptionally chill, relaxed guy, but he was a worrywart to his core. Many of you have heard the tales of him hiding behind bushes on the route from my job at Manning's Ice Cream to our house, or sometimes engaging the Abington police to keep a lookout for my car to make sure I was driving safely and I wasn't with any unapproved boys. But I think many of you don't know that after an uptick in crime in Philadelphia while I was in college there, that Sam was the catalyst for a friends and family type cell phone plan in 1996 so that I and all of my sorority sisters could get cell phones for safety long before carrying a personal phone was the norm. His outward message, aka bullshit, was, wouldn't it be cool for you and all your friends to have a cell phone? But the underlying story was more like, let me facilitate all neurotic Jewish parents having a direct line of contact with their daughters navigating the mean streets of West Philly. Off the top of my head, some other exceptional things about Sam. He was exceptionally knowledgeable about outerwear, backpacks, and flashlights, exceptionally bad at finding things or fixing things, exceptionally aware of road conditions, snow tires, and how to keep the floor mats in your car clean, as you've heard, exceptionally clueless about sports, booze, and preparing food of any kind. Sam was an exceptional friend to so many of you. I often teased him about his unending desire to stay close to home and to the store rather than explore new places and new things. But as I consider the remarkable outpouring of love and grief from this community, I'm reminded that whereas my brothers and I may have needed the excitement of New York or LA or far-flung travel to fill us up, it was all of you who filled Sam's cup, and his cup truly runneth over. My family and I have found it exceptional to hear from so many people who told us that Sam was like a father to them. Not just a good friend or even a best friend, but a father. Someone who nurtured them and supported them and loved them through their lives. I know quite a bit about this. From the first day that Sam came into my life, he treated me as his own child. He didn't have to do that. It certainly was not expected, nor was it the norm for a step-parent. But I don't think he ever considered the alternative. He made no distinction between what he did for me and what he did for Adam and Daniel. He drew no boundaries with his heart or with his wallet. He so ingrained me in his life and his love that all the members of his family followed suit and did the same, sharing their lives and homes and kindnesses with me too. There was never a day in my life that I didn't feel like Sam's daughter, and I will miss him exceptionally, as I know you all will too.
Thank you, Lindsay. I'm sure that I share the following sentiment with everyone in this room. We never wished this day would ever come. Yet here we are, dealing with the shocking and devastating blow. There was a world in each of our space with Sam Starr, and now we are faced with a world that is devoid without this great man. Sam was a realist. He spoke matter of fact. He knew what he was faced with, and he faced it courageously, battling an aggressive illness. And he knew the realities of what he was up against. A while back, he asked me if I would conduct his funeral. I knew he was serious, and I told him, of course. He thanked me. Once we were on the subject, I asked him what he would want me to say about him. He thought for half a moment, and he said, quote, that I lived my life to help others, and it gave me the greatest enjoyment and satisfaction to be able to help another. Sam knew himself quite well and best described himself because this was his drive and his life's mission. He was the ultimate and consummate giver. He thrived on helping others, and he believed in people, and it became most apparent when he was giving them a second chance. Sam wore many hats and wove them into a beautiful tapestry. He was an unbelievable, devoted son to his parents, Arnold and Elma, who I knew, a caring brother to Susan, a fantastic nephew to his uncles and aunts, and a close cousin. Sam was a wonderful and devoted husband to Lisa, a proud father to Adam, Daniel, and Lindsay, and their spouses, Mark and Esther, a delighted grandfather to his grandchildren, Charlie, Max, Will, Allie, and Enzo. Family always was a top priority. He spoke about it, and he was so proud of each of you. Lisa was there for Sam, providing encouragement and making sure Sam was okay. Sam appreciated Lisa's devotion and did whatever she could to make Sam appreciated Lisa's devotion and did whatever he could do to make Lisa comfortable and content. Lisa, you were a guiding force behind Sam's amazing will to live. Then there was Sam, the friend to countless and a close friend to even more. What was it that drew Sam to so many? I think it was his keen and genuine interest in others. He was a listener. If he caught on that somebody fell upon hard times or was struggling, whether it be financial addictions, family problems, when Sam got wind of it, he was there to personally help, would immediately contact one of his many influential friends who would be able to remedy the situation, or at least make it more tolerable. At times, just Sam's caring and attention to the matter brought a sense of calm. Sam was a private person, and when he helped someone out, he was sure to do it in the most dignified way. Star uniform was an address where everyone wanted to be. Not only the customers, but the wonderful employees too. There was a camaraderie mixed with business that was run in an with honesty, integrity, and reliability. Sam's word was gold, which matched his heart of gold. Sam had the highest regard for law enforcement community. He recognized their commitment of putting their own lives on the line to maintain a peaceful and safe place to live. The same respect went to medics, paramedics, firefighters, and just anyone who served the community. He loved outfitting each and every customer until they were perfectly satisfied. Then there was Sam, who had his inner circle of friends. Each one of you can write a book of Sam's stories. His humor, sarcasm, and playful jokes, and of course pranks, and how he would stop anything, everything to help them out. As I said, there are so many stories how Sam helped us out. Just about 32 years ago, I was heading to the Starr home one Sunday morning for Hebrew Torah study lessons with Adam, Daniel, and Lindsay, and I got pulled over for speeding in Chinchilla. When I saw Sam at the house, I told him what happened, and he knew the cop vouched for me, and the ticket was dismissed. By the way, he wasn't the only one, but only time. Sure, you all have stories. Sam just didn't use his influence to get someone off the hook. He took the opportunity as a teaching tool for the future. Early in my career, I shook his hand. He told me, "Rabbi, your hand felt like a dead fish. Let me show you how to exude confidence with a firm handshake," and we practiced. And each time I shook his hand since, it was always like, Sam loved cars, luxury and sports cars. Daniel, their son, picked up on it. He made it his business to satisfy Sam's interest in fast cars. Unfortunately, he wasn't able to enjoy the latest one. He did take me on a ride in the Ferrari. Boy, did he have control, but honestly, it was a bit too much for me. Sam cared about all people. I remember being in the store at the beginning of the Ukrainian-Russian war, and a man with Ukrainian roots walked in, and Sam supplied him with what he needed at cost and donated supplies as well. Now, in our Jewish community, Sam worked behind the scenes to establish our community's Jewish Security Council. Sam was a member of the Chevra Kadisha of Temple Israel. This was a mitzvah that so appealed to him because it benefits another without expecting anything in return. During this current Israel war with Hamas, Sam was the person who donors turned to in order to secure much needed supplies for the IDF. Literally, hundreds of thousands of dollars of supplies flowed through Sam and his connection. Aside from giving it at cost, Sam donated thousands of dollars worth of goods to protect his brethren and devoted hours and days to fulfill the orders. Those who dealt with Sam during this time could not believe the devotion, care, and time he spent with them. He was indeed one of a kind. When one reflects upon the symbolism of a uniform, which Sam dealt with, it has a dual function. It reminds the wearer of his or her job, plus the uniform makes them easily identifiable to the onlooker. But Sam wore his own uniform. Sam was an impeccably sharp dresser. He was always perfectly groomed. Nice clothing made him feel good, and it came across so presentable. That Sam's image and uniform regularly masked how lousy he felt from all the treatments. He never complained, but he would tell me. Sam's pleasant face and garb was his uniform, I met someone the other day, and he remarked that the obituary said that he died unexpectedly. The person told me he didn't look like he was sick. That's exactly what Sam Starr wanted to accomplish. Sam, you were amazing. Your upbeat spirit was contagious. Boy, are we going to miss you. Sam had a deep spiritual side to him as well. Sam davened. He prayed every day from a siddur prayer book. Each day, Sam donned tefillin, our special holy black boxes that we tie in our arms and wear on our head. This was Sam's spiritual uniform. This is because tefillin boxes are called by our Torah as testimony. One who wears it bears testimony that they are the servants of God, and in a certain sense, tefillin is our uniform. It is for ourselves, our spiritual connectivity, and when others see it being worn, the Torah states that it instills a recognition of God in those who see it as well. Just last week, Sam came to our home. He came by to say hi to my wife, Malki, who was preparing a Hanukkah dinner for over 50 guests. Sam came before the guests, and Malki packed him up with food. Sam made us feel so special with that visit. In Hebrew, the word for a friend is chaver. There is another word in Hebrew that shares the same root with chaver, and that is chibur, which means connection. Essentially, when one becomes a friend, it is because a connection has been made. Sadly for all of us, family and friends, Sam's physical connection was taken from us. In Judaism, there are two components to a person, the physical and the spiritual, which is called the neshama, the soul. While our physical existence on this world is limited, our soul is eternal. Sam's soul hears what is being said today. Sam's soul ascends to the heavens, and all that he has accomplished in life is reckoned with by God, where his soul receives reward. However, the capacity of the soul does not remain stagnant once a person passes on. It is continuously being reevaluated when we, the living, do something in memory of the deceased, or we do something that we learned from the person who had passed and we implemented in our lives. So we each have a treasure trove of good lessons we learned from Sam Starr. And when we are faced with a situation, and stop and think and say to ourselves, what would Sam have done? We will keep that spiritual connection with Sam going, and we will always maintain our friendship and connection with Sam. I want to conclude with quoting Sam's own words. I lived my life to help others, and it gave me the greatest enjoyment and satisfaction to be able to help another. Sam, we'll never forget you. May your soul be bound in the bond of eternal life. Please rise for the Malay Rahman.
מולי רחמים, שוכן במרמים, אמצעי מנוחה נכונה תחת כנפי השכינה במעלות קדושים ודהורים כזוהר גרקיה מסגירים Evet niyişmad Shmuel ben Aharon Shagalav aglolamo Beganeden tehemenuchetu Ana babal haragamim Asiregu beseder kenefecha le'olamim Utzirov bizrov v'rachem et nishmatovo Adonai hu nachalato ve'yanuvach beshalom al mishkavo ve'nomar Amen. O God, exalted and full of compassion, grant perfect peace in your sheltering presence among the holy and pure to the soul of Sam Starr, Shmuel ben Aharon, who has gone to his eternal home. Master of mercy, we beseech you, remember all the worthy and righteous deeds that he performed in the land of the living. May his soul be bound up in the bond of life. The Lord is his portion. May he rest in peace. And let us say amen.
Thank you, Rabbi. Thank you, Hazen. At this time, I ask that the pallbearers please step forward. David Mizraki, David Safanelli, Evan Weinberger, Will Starr, Alan Goldstein, Mark, Max, and Charlie Landman, as all others remain standing.